The Galactic Council chamber hummed with the sort of tension usually reserved for impending supernovas or particularly contentious parking disputes. Admiral Krix of the Drakenid Empire, all 7 feet of scaled magnificence, adjusted his ceremonial armor for the 4th time in as many minutes. His species didn't sweat, but if they could, he'd be doing it now. "Esteemed colleagues," he began, his voice echoing through the vast chamber, "I come before you today with disturbing news about the humans." A collective groan rippled through the assembly. The Zorblaxians rolled all 4 of their eyes. The quantum clouds briefly destabilized their particle matrices in annoyance. Even the usually stoic crystalline collective vibrated at a frequency that clearly meant, "Oh, here we go again." I know, Krix continued, holding up his clawed hands defensively. "But this time it's different. We've discovered something truly terrifying about their species. Something that makes their nuclear weapons look like children's toys." He paused for dramatic effect, then realized that was an unfortunately accurate comparison. Ambassador Meep of the Fluffy Confederation raised a paw. "Is this about their habit of keeping deadly predators in their homes and calling them good boys?" "Because we've discussed this. No, though that remains deeply concerning," Krix replied. "This is about the young. Specifically, a developmental stage they call toddlers." The chamber went quiet, the kind of quiet that makes vacuum seem chatty. "Perhaps it would be best if I showed you the footage our operative, Commander Pex, collected during his observation mission to Earth." "Computer, play surveillance file THT 2187. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a human retail establishment designated as Super Mega Mart. Commander Pex's nervous voice came through in a whispered commentary. "Day 47 of human observation. I've positioned myself as a store clerk, which provides excellent coverage of human social interactions. Current time is what they call Sunday afternoon, apparently their traditional time for mass gathering and commerce." The footage showed Pex, disguised in a red vest and name tag, pretending to restock shelves while watching a human family. The parents looked tired in a way that transcended species barriers, while their offspring, a small human designated as Tommy, vibrated with an energy that made antimatter look stable. The young human has been denied acquisition of a toy designated as Mega Blaster Ultrabot 3000, Pex's voice continued, growing more anxious. "Calculating probability of, oh no, it's happening." The footage showed young Tommy's face turning an alarming shade of red. The council watched in horror as the child's features scrunched up in what many species would later describe as eldritch configurations. "Computer, pause footage," Krix commanded. "I feel it's important to warn more sensitive members of the council that what follows may be disturbing." Ambassador Zenith of the Energy Beings flickered nervously. "Surely you're being overdramatic. We've seen humans survive atmospheric re-entry, continue fighting with multiple fractures, and eat something called ghost peppers for entertainment. How bad could a small human be?" "Computer, resume footage." What followed would be forever burned into the collective memory of the Galactic Council. The scream that erupted from Tommy's mouth caused several crystalline species to develop cracks. The subsequent thrashing on the floor made experts in zero-gravity combat wince. The sheer volume of tears produced had hydrologists requesting data for study, but it was the parents' reactions that truly terrified the council. They just stood there, calm, as if this reality-warping display of raw emotion was normal. When the footage ended, the council chamber remained silent for a full planetary rotation cycle. Finally, Grand Arbiter Vox spoke, their voice modulator struggling to maintain composure. "Admiral Krix, are you suggesting that humans regularly survive these encounters?" "Not only survive, but they appear to have developed resistance. Our studies show that human parents can withstand multiple such events in a single solar cycle. Some even maintain enough cognitive function to continue their daily tasks." The implications were staggering. A species that could endure such psychological warfare from their own offspring. That could maintain societal function despite regular exposure to these emotional superweapons. The military applications alone were beyond comprehension. "We need more data," declared Dr. Lear, the Council's leading xenopsychologist, their tentacles twitching with scientific excitement. "Commander Pex, are you willing to continue your observation mission?" The footage briefly showed Pex's disguised form, now hiding behind a display of breakfast cereals. "Affirmative, though I request hazard pay and additional emotional support resources. Yesterday, I witnessed what they call a sugar rush. I still hear the giggling." Admiral Krix straightened his armor again, this time with purpose. "I propose we establish a new research initiative. Project Tiny Human Understanding and Neutralization Deployment Effect Research, or Thunder." "Isn't that acronym a bit forced?" asked Ambassador Meep. "Everything about this situation is forced, Ambassador. We're dealing with beings who can look at a small version of themselves having an emotional meltdown and respond by offering snacks. We need to understand this power." As the Council debated the proposal, no one noticed the small human child who had wandered into the supposedly secure chamber, clutching a juice box and wearing light-up sneakers. "My shoelace is untied," the child announced to the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The resulting panic would go down in history as the Great Council evacuation of 2025, though some species would later deny fleeing from a 4-year-old human girl who just wanted help with her shoes. Commander Pex, watching from his hiding spot behind a potted plant, made another entry in his observation log, Day 48, have requested transfer to active combat duty in the Gamma Quadrant. It seems safer. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council's newly formed Human Child Behavior Study Committee was going about as well as one might expect, which is to say, several species had already requested asylum in parallel dimensions. Dr. Lear's 17 tentacles were a blur of activity as they operated multiple holographic displays, each showing different footage of human toddlers in their natural habitat. As you can see, colleagues, the situation is far more complex than initially reported. Commander Pex, attending via secure quantum link from his new observation post at a human establishment called Tiny Tots Daycare, was visibly twitching. "Complex is an understatement, Doctor. I've documented no fewer than 73 distinct variations of what they call tantrums. The one designated as, 'I wanted the blue cup not the red cup even though they're exactly the same,' nearly caused an interdimensional rift." Admiral Krix, who had refused to remove his tactical armor since the previous council meeting, leaned forward. "What about containment options?" Dr. Lear's tentacles paused their frantic dance. "That's the truly fascinating part. Human parents appear to have developed various countermeasures, but their effectiveness is inconsistent at best. Observe this footage from last week. The main display showed a human mother dealing with a toddler in full meltdown mode. The child, apparently distraught over not being allowed to eat the decorative soap in a public restroom, had achieved a shade of red previously thought impossible in carbon-based life forms. Note the parent's response, Dr. Lear highlighted. A technique they call distraction. The assembled aliens watched in fascination as the mother produced a small rectangular device from her bag, performed a series of precise manipulations, and showed it to the child. The transformation was immediate and terrifying. "They call it a phone video of dancing animals," Pex explained, his voice haunted. "The emotional shift occurs faster than our most advanced mood alteration technology. One moment, chaos. The next, complete absorption. We still don't understand the mechanism." A junior researcher raised a trembling appendage. "But surely this is good news. We've found their weakness." Admiral Krix let out a barking laugh that caused several nearby devices to short-circuit. "You don't understand. The same stimulus won't work twice. Sometimes it won't even work once. Their unpredictability is their strength." Dr. Lear activated another display, this one showing a complex chart that looked suspiciously like it had been drawn by a toddler with a crayon. "We've identified several other phenomena that require immediate study. The terrible twos, which actually can occur at any age between 2 and 4, making the name both inaccurate and cruel. The sugar rush, which defies all known laws of biochemistry. and perhaps most disturbingly, something they call Baby Shark. The mere mention of the last one caused Commander Pex to temporarily lose his holographic disguise. But that's not even the worst part, Pex continued, after regaining his composition and human form. Yesterday, I witnessed what they call a playdate. The silence that followed was heavy enough to bend light, multiple toddlers. In the same location, voluntarily, Ambassador Meep's fur stood so straight it was technically a new life form. 6 of them, Pex confirmed. The parents called it a birthday party. They added concentrated sugar to their offspring's systems through a ritual involving candles and singing. The resulting chaos. I need a moment. As Pex's transmission briefly cut out, Dr. Lear brought up new footage. What truly astounds me is the parents' resilience. Look here, the display showed a group of human adults, sitting around a table, drinking something called coffee, while their toddlers enacted what appeared to be a recreation of the heat death of the universe around them. They're ignoring it, gasped a council member. Not ignoring, Dr. Lear corrected. They've developed a selective perception ability that would make our best special forces envious. They can simultaneously monitor their offspring for actual danger while carrying on complex social interactions. Some even achieve a state they call adult conversation. Admiral Krix stood suddenly, causing everyone to flinch. We've been looking at this all wrong. These aren't just tantrums. This is training. Training. Several voices asked simultaneously. Think about it. From birth, humans are exposed to these chaos generators. They learn to function despite conditions that would drive most species insane. By the time they reach adulthood, they're practically immune to psychological warfare. The implications hit the room like a quantum torpedo. Dr. Lear's tentacles began moving again, this time with excitement. The Admiral's right. Look at this data. Humans who survive raising toddlers show increased resistance to stress, enhanced problem-solving abilities, and the capacity to remain calm in situations that would cause most species to evacuate the galaxy. Commander Pex's transmission resumed, his disguise slightly glitching around the edges. That explains why human military personnel seem to find my infiltration techniques amusing. Compared to convincing a toddler to wear pants, interstellar espionage must seem trivial. Before anyone could respond, an alarm blared through the chamber. Red lights flashed as a security officer burst in, their exoskeleton rattling with fear. Emergency in Sector 7, they announced. A human child care facility has opened a branch in the diplomatic quarter. They're calling it an intergalactic daycare center. Admiral Krix actually took a step back. They're weaponizing it. Worse, the officer continued. They're offering free trial sessions. Several high-ranking officials have already enrolled their offspring, saying something about cultural exchange and building bridges. Dr. Lear's tentacles went completely still. Do you realize what this means? In a few years, we'll have a generation of galaxy-spanning toddlers, all learning from each other. Human tantrums crossed with Zorblaxian energy surges, quantum cloud instability fits enhanced by terrible twos. The galaxy will never be the same, Pex whispered. As if to punctuate his words, a distant sound echoed through the council chamber. A sound that made hardened warriors reach for their comfort blankets. A sound that would haunt dreams across multiple dimensions. The unmistakable beginning notes of Baby Shark. The Galactic Council's main chamber had seen better days. Much better days. The once pristine walls now featured an impressive collection of crayon masterpieces. The quantum-stabilized floating platforms had been repurposed as somewhat unstable blanket forts, and there was an inexplicable coating of what experts hesitantly identified as sparkle slime on most surfaces. Admiral Krix, his ceremonial armor now adorned with several stickers featuring something called Bluey, stood before his fellow council members with an expression that suggested he had seen the face of chaos itself and somehow lived to tell about it. My fellow beings, he began, pausing to extract a half-eaten cookie from his armor's power core, I come before you today with unprecedented news. After 3 months of intensive study at the Intergalactic Daycare Center, We have made a breakthrough in understanding human child behavior. Dr. Lear, whose tentacles were currently occupied braiding the hair of two human toddlers while simultaneously preventing a young Zorblaxian from eating a crayon, pulled up the latest research data. The holographic display was immediately decorated with virtual stickers by an enthusiastic quantum cloud child. As you can see, Dr. Lear continued, not bothering to remove the dancing dinosaur graphics now obscuring half the charts, our initial assessment of human toddlers as chaos generators was both accurate and completely beside the point. They're not weapons, they're teachers. Commander Pex, who had given up maintaining his human disguise after a particularly intense game of hide-and-seek had scrambled his morphic field generators, nodded sagely. It took me being trapped in the timeout corner with young Tommy Thompson to understand. These tiny humans aren't just surviving chaos, they're mastering it. The footage from Pex's last observation period played above the council chamber. It showed Tommy, now a veteran of the daycare's cultural exchange program, calmly talking a young crystalline through their first phase shift tantrum. "It's okay," Tommy's voice came through clearly. "Sometimes I get mad too. Want to share my crackers?" The crystalline child, whose emotional outbreak had been causing localized reality fluctuations, gradually stabilized. The crackers, somehow, survived the physics-defying exchange. Admiral Krix stepped forward, narrowly avoiding a passing train of toddlers engaged in what they called a conga line. "The humans have been trying to show us something all along. Their children aren't a threat, they're an opportunity. Through them, we're learning to embrace chaos rather than fear it." Dr. Lear's display shifted to show a series of remarkable statistics. Interspecies cooperation is up 300%. Diplomatic incidents are down 75%. And perhaps most surprisingly, overall happiness levels across all participating species have increased dramatically. Though the coffee consumption has also increased by 1000%, Pex added, clutching his own enormous cup of what the humans called survival juice. A small human child, wearing what appeared to be a combination of princess dress and spacesuit, wandered up to the main platform. The council members, rather than fleeing in terror as they would have months ago, collectively smiled. "Ambassador Luna," Admiral Krix acknowledged formally, "do you have something to add to these proceedings?" The 4-year-old diplomat adjusted her tiara thoughtfully. "My friend Blorp is sad because their quantum fluctuations make it hard to play freeze dance. Can we install stability generators in the dance room? Also, we need more juice boxes." Dr. Lear's tentacles wiggled with pride. "You see, 6 months ago, that request would have caused 17 committee meetings and at least 3 diplomatic crises. Now it's just Tuesday." The council chamber's doors burst open as a group of parents, both human and alien, arrived for pickup time. The scene that followed would have once been considered chaos incarnate. Children switching between multiple phases of matter during goodbye hugs, temporary wormholes opening to accommodate forgotten lunchboxes, and at least one reality-bending tantrum over a missing stuffed animal. But now it was just another day at the Intergalactic Daycare Center. Admiral Krix watched as Tommy Thompson helped organize a last-minute sharing circle, expertly preventing an incident when a void child tried to share a small black hole they'd made in arts and crafts. "To think we once feared this," he mused, accepting a slightly sticky hand-drawn picture from a passing toddler. "We spent millennia perfecting order, never realizing that chaos handled with love might be the greatest teacher of all." Commander Pex, now permanently assigned as the daycare's head of security, a position that mainly involved knowing where all the best snacks were hidden, nodded. The humans knew all along. Every tantrum, every meltdown, every seemingly impossible situation was just another lesson in adaptation, resilience, and growth. Speaking of impossible situations, Dr. Lear interrupted, their tentacles suddenly anxious. "It's music time." The familiar opening notes of Baby Shark began to play. But this time, instead of running in terror, the assembled galaxy's most powerful beings simply smiled and joined in with the hand motions. Even the quantum cloud, who technically didn't have hands, participated with enthusiastic energy fluctuations. As the song reached its 15th repeat, toddlers across all species sharing an inexplicable love for repetition, Admiral Krix found himself thinking back to that first terrifying encounter with a human tantrum. How far they'd come since then. How much they'd learned. The Galactic Council had finally understood something humans had known all along, that the path to true advancement wasn't through perfect order, but through embracing chaos with patience, love, and occasionally, emergency supplies of cookies. Epilogue. 20 years later, Tommy Thompson became the first human appointed as head of the now famous Galactic Education and Development Initiative. His first act was to install bounce houses in every diplomatic meeting room, arguing that no one could maintain galactic tensions while trying to navigate an obstacle course of giggling children. He was right, of course, though the initiative did lead to a slight increase in the galaxy's Band-Aid budget. Commander Pex never did return to active military duty, instead writing a best-selling guide titled, From Spy to Snack Time: A Journey Through Human Childcare. His chapter on surviving glitter art projects became required reading at the Galactic Military Academy. Dr. Lear's research into the therapeutic applications of playground dynamics revolutionized intergalactic psychiatry, though they never did figure out why human children insisted on eating paste. And Admiral Krix, he kept that first crayon drawing from the council chamber, framed in his office. A reminder that sometimes the most powerful forces in the universe come in the smallest packages, armed with nothing more than imagination, emotion, and occasionally, a juice box.